Welcome to Manifest with Celeste. My name is Celeste Baiwaso. I'm a leadership and career coach, and I created this podcast to inspire you to dream big and pursue your dreams. Today, I'm with Connor Pera, and Connor is an entrepreneur through acquisition. People call it ETA now. And he runs the Print Authority, which is a 34-year-old commercial printing business in Nashville that specializes in printing, promo apparel, fulfillment at multiple locations. Welcome, Connor. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I know something that you also identify as is a father and a husband and a father of two.
Yes, I am. Yeah, busy home life as well.
The first question I ask people is, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Probably the first memories I have of that is like wanting to be a pro athlete.
I appreciate the honesty.
I very quickly learned that was probably not going to happen for me in life. But I played a lot of sports growing up. Just, loved to compete. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of those like kind of things like around competition is like really what's resonated with me about running a business too. I'm sure we'll get into that, but I wanted to be a probably pro baseball player. Baseball was probably the thing I was most interested around the time you start getting asked that question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then like for the longest time after, realizing that pro athlete was off the table, I kind of feel like for the longest time, it was just like, I don't know, right? Like something in business, I think. My dad was an executive in the generic pharmaceutical industry. And he's been retired for some time now. But obviously, like seeing him kind of navigate corporate America growing up, I think it was just kind of like the most tangible example I had at home of what a professional career looks like. So, but obviously as a kid, didn't really know like the specifics of what he did or anything. I think it was just like generally, I think I want to do something in business after I realized that professional baseball was off the table.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about your journey. I think for some people can relate of, they didn't have a clear goal, what they wanted. They have like a general vibe. Can you talk about how you navigated that?
Yeah, it was kind of challenging in some ways because I look at my wife, for example, she's a podiatrist and she knew she wanted to do something in medicine like when she was a kid. And then she knew that she wanted to get into podiatry like when she was in high school. She had like an internship program that she did in high school and got to shadow a podiatrist and thought it seemed really cool and all that kind of stuff. She's one of those people who like locked on to this thing that she wanted to do in high school and then, went through 8 years of school and 3 years of residency and all the things to go make it happen. And yeah, that was like not my experience. I don't know. I think I kind of just had a general goal. Like it depends on kind of what age we're talking about, but definitely like grew up in a household that valued education very highly. And so when I was in high school, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to try to go to a good school and figure out what I want to do in college. And then I got to college and got into the business school. I went to Penn State for undergrad. Then I was just kind of like on the path in the business school because that's what I applied for. Then I was just kind of choosing between majors in business. I have an accounting degree from undergrad, and that was like very much of a practical decision. So I probably have like, I don't know, some unresolved things I need to work through about like kind of how I made decisions in the early part of my life. I still don't really know what I want to do. I've got to pick a major. I did pretty well in the intro accounting class, and accounting's pretty stable. Like it's a good thing to know if you want to do anything in business. So I think I'll do accounting. And that's kind of how I landed on my major. And then I was kind of just like on the path, but very much just like backed into the decisions I made based on where I was at the time and like an assessment of what I felt like I was good at and at least like somewhat interested based on the very limited knowledge I have.
Yeah, I think that's a story for a lot of people where it's like, I went to college and you're like, that seems like a practical job or major. Let's do that.
Yeah, and I wish like somebody would have told me in college that like everyone is experiencing this. Because to me, or a lot of people, to me, it seemed like this is kind of like a theme from my early adulthood years. Like it seemed like everyone else had like everything figured out and they like knew what they wanted to go do. I think for me, it was kind of a struggle because I was like, I don't really know. I mean, I think I want to do this, but also like before you get any professional experience, you really like have no idea what you even like or are good at. So yeah, it's a weird time.
Yeah. I feel like it needs some innovation so people can try on some things before actually
For
committing
sure.
to a major. Okay, so you graduated. Did you go into accounting after you
Yeah, I
graduated?
didn't go into like traditional accounting. I got a job working for a financial services firm in the Philadelphia area doing like middle office operations. So it was a company called SEI Investments. People in the financial services industry know it, but it's very much like a B2B company. We sold technology and outsourced services to financial advisors, and I was doing like transaction processing and that sort of thing. And early in my career, I knew that I did not want to do that for the long term, but got the opportunity to manage a team of operations analysts. So like entry level people and then kind of like career financial ops folks pretty early on, about 2 years into my career. And that was like the first experience professionally that I had where I started to feel like I have an idea of what I like to do, because I really liked leading teams and managing. Gravitated towards like the responsibility of like leading. And that's kind of all I knew at the time. And then my interests sort of developed from there.
I was just hearing that, and it sounded like at that moment, the light started to flicker of what you like and gave you some insight. What was that thing that started to develop for you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I've been opening up more publicly too about like sort of like my personal journey that was happening in the background in my early career as well. But I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for some time now, and it was around that time that I got sober too. And so that was the game changing event in my personal life that really started to open up this curiosity about what's possible and what I want to go do, and the journey of self development and personal fulfillment that has sort of like become an obsession over the last decade. That was like definitely a big factor on the personal side. But then, I mean, professionally too, it was definitely the light bulb experience of, oh, if I'm managing a team, like I got opportunities to be in meetings with senior leaders at the company and kind of hear how they were talking about the business and thinking strategically about business problems, getting to like work with other functions in the business and kind of collaborate on projects, business-wide initiatives more. The fulfillment that came from being a like enabling other people's success. And I think that has become a consistent theme as well over the last bunch of years for me, is like that is a peak experience in life for me, is when you get to be a passenger to, and ideally play hopefully an active part in somebody having their like light bulb moment, or even just like accomplishing something that they didn't think they could or they thought was going to be too hard. And so like I started to have some of those experiences with people that reported to me, and that was like really really cool, because it was like, oh, like this person is making progress, they're like becoming like a really valuable contributing member of the team and the company. Yeah, you just start to see like people blossom in their own way, and that became like a really exciting thing for me too, that has been the most rewarding part of this experience I've had the last 3 years running the business too.
That sounds deeply fulfilling. And what stands out to me hearing your story, when you got into that leadership position, some people become leaders for the wrong reason, where it's like, oh, I want to be in power and control. But what I'm hearing from you, you genuinely want to help people grow and develop, accomplish goals, grow in themselves.
Yeah, there's a dark side to it too. There, not necessarily like the power and control thing as much as like the feeling important thing. And there's like some ego stuff going on that I am kind of always wrestling with too. Almost like a codependency, really, about like feeling like I want to be an influential part of other people's lives. And like I think when calibrated correctly, that's a very healthy thing. But obviously, there's a flip side of that coin that can lead to some ego driven tendencies too. But yes, in general, I would say that's accurate. But I don't want to give people the impression that I'm like entirely selfless either.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the honesty. And I think it's human nature to feel that you're valuable, that you're
Yeah, for
offering
sure.
value to others, therefore, like, you're worthy, and those are things of human nature, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you being open about that. I wanted to go back to what you were saying, was that it really tied to your recovery personal experience of when you started to feel more on the right path. Could you talk more about that? How those two things interconnect?
Sort of like what I talked about with feeling uncertain about what I wanted to do professionally. I mean, I definitely felt that way just generally in life, right? Sort of the comparison trap too that I alluded to, of feeling other people had things figured out that I didn't, and what was wrong with me, and all that like negative self-talk. And then I think I just also like come from a family history of addiction too. So there's just like this genetic predisposition to those problems. It's so funny because looking back on obviously some pretty deeply unhappy times in my life, that experience of the problems I created in my personal life and just kind of like the mental health struggle of battling through an addiction, having to completely surrender and make a significant dramatic change. There was almost, I felt like I needed to, this change needed to happen, or like things were going down a bad path. But I like needed that experience. And it, in so many ways, it's shaped like everything about who I am today. So like I'm grateful for that whole struggle from, call it late high school to almost mid 20s, that really like shaped me into the person I am. And it like when I was going through it, it was not something I was happy about or like enjoying experiencing, obviously, but
Yeah.
like it was necessary. Like it was necessary for me to like have the wake up call that I needed about like personal powerlessness. And for me, like it's led to it, a spiritual development and like a redevelopment of my faith. That's just become like the cornerstone and the foundation of my life. So I like in the early stages, what it felt like, and sort of what was happening professionally and personally was like, I just felt more alive and more engaged in life. Obviously I was clear headed. I was feeling physically a lot better, but then it was just so much more, started redeveloping hope about the future and again, career stuff and just life stuff and having a family someday. All those things became so much more top of mind and important. And so, yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question, but it was in so many ways like that whole experience. And then my sobriety journey to date is just probably one of the most foundational things about who I am as a person and like kind of how I operate in the world too. So yeah, so it was like kind of both things happened concurrently, but at the end of the day, like I'm very grateful for that experience because I just needed that wake up call. And like I needed to sort of like come to the end of myself to really like force the mindset shift that needed to happen to enable like any chance of career or otherwise like success anyway.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing and being vulnerable, because I know
Yeah.
maybe not everybody would share that part of their story of how they came to be where they are.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's just such a big part of what drives me too. And I like sort of like related to the people thing, like had this experience in my life. And I share this with my team. Yeah. I don't want to paint the picture that it was like the worst possible situation I was deeply unhappy. And like, I've gone from that to like, life is complicated and hard sometimes today, but for the most part, like I'm extremely happy and fulfilled. And like, my life is full of meaning, and I've been able to accomplish a lot of like really cool things that I did not think were possible. If you would have asked me, particularly before I got sober, like if you would have like told me what's going to happen over the next decade, there's no way I would have believed you. And so I think like having that experience and the way it's transformed my life, it's like the single biggest motivator for me. This is all stuff I'm learning like recently through a lot of therapy and work. But it's like that experience has changed me so dramatically that I want everyone to experience some version of that, because it's taken me from a position of I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, I'm not like life is not working out the way I want it to, and what's wrong with me, to like anything's possible if I'm willing to do what it takes and willing to put in the work. And that transformation did not happen overnight, but like that is obviously an extremely powerful mindset shift that I think a lot of people, and their stories aren't obviously the same as mine, but I do think a lot of people self-impose limits on their life, even ambitious and intelligent people, based on, kind of like old ideas or just like how their sense of themselves that inhibit their ability to become the best version of themselves. I mean, I'm sure this is like kind of what you do. So it's right in your wheelhouse. But I think if I can like get other people to have that experience or like in some small way enable that, like that is the most deeply motivating thing. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning is like if I can get people to see that what they previously thought was not possible is possible if, you make sacrifices and work hard and do the things. That's what I want to be known for. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, 100%. And as you're saying that, I'm like, preach, because yeah, I'm a big believer of that, where a lot of the limitations that we have are ones we hold in true in our brain, but really it's not the truth. And whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds so cliche. It's almost like lame to say,
I
but
know it
it's like
sounds so
so true.
corny,
I mean,
but
it's like it's been my experience and like the entrepreneurship journey too. That was a big. I mean, I continue to run into these experiences as an entrepreneur where like, and a lot of times you fail, you get told no, but sometimes I end up in rooms or in situations that I probably like from a pure qualification standpoint should not be in, but you realize that there are actually no gatekeepers preventing you from doing what you want to do. It's just a matter of getting over the fear and the difficulty of going out and accomplishing what you want to go accomplish. It's a very like liberating experience to realize that. And I think entrepreneurship's been like a great playground for that too. It's been awesome.
I have so many questions. First, before going to question, just want to say I totally empathize with you with being sober and that bringing a lot of clarity, because I've been sober for 3.5 years. And
Awesome.
yeah, I wouldn't say that it was an addiction, but I would say, yeah, if you probably fast forward a time, then yeah, it would become an addiction. I feel like at that
Good for
moment,
you. Yeah.
thank you. I feel the same of I was unhappy, not really sure what I wanted, and just pursued the gold stars of like going to a top school, getting my MBA, working at a top company, but was not happy even though I was checking those boxes. But then by being sober, it forced me to really sit in the discomfort of like, I do not
Mhm.
like this and I cannot just tune out, like, oh, I had a rough day. Let me like smoke
Totally.
some weed. Like, it's like, okay, let me actually sit and do like, I'm so uncomfortable now that I'm not like tuning out that I need to do something about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's like one of the hardest things is that substances they become a crutch, right? And it's just like a way to deal with life. But when you take that crutch away, then it's like, well, then how do you deal with life? And that's when things get hard because you realize you got to like work through difficult things without that crutch. And it's challenging.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now it's here. Like, you have to like
But yeah, you
do
just gotta
work.
sit in it sometimes too. There's tools and all those things too, but yeah, sometimes you just gotta like sit in the difficulty.
I'm curious. So you got sober, you're in a leadership position. When did entrepreneurship become like, oh, yes, that's something I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't until business school. I mean, I kind of always thought of myself as someone who wanted to lead people and teams, but do it in a traditional like company corporate setting. And I went to business school to pivot into CPG brand management. And that's what I focused my time on while I was in B school and did my internship. And that's actually what brought me to Nashville was a brand management job down here after my MBA. So that was my focus. But while I was in business school, I took a class at Kellogg called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition about this model. It sounds so cliche, but like I was definitely one of those like aspiring acquisition entrepreneurs who sort of had this light bulb moment about the model because it was like I saw and thought of entrepreneurship as like you're building a tech startup and you're like, raising money from VCs or you're just like bootstrapping it. But it was very much like I'm going to try to build the next Facebook type of thing. And I definitely did not see myself as that, nor did I feel like I had like an idea or like a compelling paradigm shifting project or business that I had to like get out into the world. And so I thought like that's entrepreneurship, or like the other option is like just go work for someone type of thing. And then, obviously getting introduced to the ETA model, it's like actually like there's a lot of businesses that are not as large as, maybe the ones you're recruiting for in business school, not nearly as large, but that are good businesses. They've been around for a long time. They're stable, have strong operating history, and they generate a lot of free cash flow. And you can buy those businesses. I mean, you don't have to be a multimillionaire to do so. Like, you can raise money from banks and investors and then run a business. And to me, the goal with getting into brand management was always like function and industry that I felt like I could be successful in, because I was really, I still am like really interested in CPG and brand marketing. Like, I find it interesting and exciting. And so when I was applying to business schools, those essays just kind of like wrote themselves. I literally I took the GMAT first and was like, oh wow, like this is like, I could actually get into some good schools. Let me take a step back and like figure. Then I was like, what am I going to like write these applications about? Like, what do I want to do? And then it was like, like doing research and talking to people. And then like the essays about getting into brand management, like kind of wrote themselves, because I felt like it was a good combination of what I knew I liked functionally about work with like products and brands that I felt like were exciting, and more tangible and interesting to me. So yeah, so that was my focus. Again, like kind of got introduced to this sort of paradigm shifting idea that, I could skip a lot of steps. And so the thought initially was like, I'll go do brand management, kind of like work my way up through the marketing function and other functions throughout my career. And then I can like run something. That was kind of always the end game for me, was like, I want to run a large organization, or like run a division or run a brand, like whatever the case may be, but wanted to like have meaningful responsibility and ownership of something. And yeah, the ETA model was like I can just skip a lot of steps here. I don't have to spend like decades getting promoted. If I'm willing to take a little more risk and manage something smaller, I can skip a lot of steps. So that was what appealed to me about the model. And like, since I took that class, it just was one of those things that just like never really left the interest in it. And I recruited for some like lower middle market operator roles my second year that I didn't get. But then as I was looking into those, is like, just got more plugged into sort of the like search fund ecosystem and what people were doing and what was possible. And it just piqued my interest, and, obviously went a different direction immediately. Post MBA, went with the CPG role that I had and had done an internship for. But even while I was doing that, I definitely was still like interested in this ETA path. Like I was like, I think I'm going to do that someday. And then someday just kept being sooner and sooner and sooner.
Yeah, what made it come in sooner and sooner? Because it sounded like, oh, I want to get experience and like take
Yeah,
my time.
for sure. Yeah. And I think like even coming out of business school, I think I want to do that someday. I don't know when, but I think I want to do that. Like a combination of factors, but, had an awesome experience. I worked for Mars Care, had an awesome experience working there in marketing. Amazing company, awesome people. The projects were exciting. The pet care category is like a really fun category. So I was enjoying all that, but it was also like the thing that was missing was like the ability to like really own my decisions and sort of like really have ownership over something in a way that was like super meaningful and engaging. And, it makes sense that like I wouldn't have that in my career at Mars. Like, obviously, like you don't want like someone immediately post MBA to like be able to totally like change your company strategy. Not that I had like a ton of changes, but it was like I was comfortable. Like, I started realizing like I was actually comfortable being wrong. I just want to own the decision. I want to have, to use like a sports analogy, it's like I want the ball in my hand at the end of the game. And if I miss the shot, I missed the shot. Okay, fire me. I don't know. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that. But like, I just kind of started realizing I'm actually like more comfortable with risk in that sense. And I want the ownership. And then I think also like my wife and I had settled in Nashville. We really liked the area. And I think the other big piece of it too is like I kind of saw the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, if I was successful, the way that would play out, it would probably require me moving potentially, and like to do, really high level senior executive things at a global company, probably moving globally at some point too. And not to say that that's something I wouldn't ever entertain, but it was definitely something that I was less open to than I like would have thought, certainly like pre-MBA or even like during my time in business school. I kind of felt like I'll just go wherever the career opportunity is, but then like kind of settling into Nashville, like it's like it would have to be really compelling for me to want to leave at least now. And we were also, we started a family, so my daughter's 3 now and my son is 17 months old. So we were having those conversations too, and I was like, again, just like, what do I want the next 10 to 20 years of my life to look like? And I was also really attracted to the ETA model because of I felt like flexibility it could offer me, particularly as we're planning a family. Like if I buy a good business and do well with it, then potentially I could have someone who runs the day to day. And then if the kids are in elementary school, middle school, whatever, like, and I want to take a step back from work, like I would like to have the option to do that. So yeah, so I think the wealth building opportunity and really like just the options that having wealth gives you in life was attractive to me. I think I just started having more and more of those thoughts and started feeling more and more pulled to the ETA world. I also started a side hustle vending machine business that I was running, and that was like a big aha for me too, because I mean, even at its peak, that business was like I was pocketing like $500 a month, right? So it's like, not that that's nothing, but it was much less of my income, but I felt like I was so much more like excited and engaged about this little like 3 machine vending company that I was running than the thing that was like paying all the bills. And I was like, maybe there's like something to this, because like what I loved about it was it certainly was not more exciting than, the brand marketing work that I was doing. The like actual content of the work was definitely more exciting there in the pet food marketing world. But it was like I was building something that I owned, and I had to figure everything out while I was building it. And that was like so fun to me. When I sold my first location, like I got the agreement in place to put a machine at an apartment complex. I didn't even have a machine. Like I had to figure out like how to go find a machine and place it within 30 days, which
Oh,
is like,
wow.
yeah, it's plenty of time. But yeah, it was one of those experiences where like I was just like taking action and like things were happening. It was exciting because it was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to have to figure it out. And I would say that, that's when calibrated correctly, like where I hopefully like add the most value to the business that I operate today is just like a bias for action. I really have a tendency to jump on opportunities and kind of like figure the rest out later. As you can imagine, that approach has its drawbacks as well.
Yeah, there's always
Uh,
trade-offs.
but I think that was so exciting to me, having to figure it out. And just like, there's no like roadmap, right? There's no guidebook on how to go, what you should do next type of thing. You just kind of have to figure it out. And that was exciting to me. So yeah, so all those things were kind of all happening simultaneously while I was working. And I think the biggest thing was just if it doesn't work out, like if I go down this path and it doesn't work out, I can go back. Like I don't have to, I'm not like signing my life away. Like, I could go work for someone again. I could go get a job again. And I was like, I have a job right now. That's what I'm doing now. So
Yeah. But
like, um, so I kind of felt like, obviously there's risk. I took on personally guaranteed debt to buy the business. So like, it's not a decision to just be taken lightly, but at the same time, it wasn't like I couldn't go back and rebuild if it didn't work out type of thing. And
yeah, the
so
default is there
I just
as a
felt like
backup.
I should try. And then the way it manifests itself is like, I was just like, I'm just going to like, spend some time like looking for businesses and looking at business listings and networking with people, talking to people and getting their advice. And it just kind of like snowballed from there. And we ended up finding a business. It was obviously quite a process to get from, I'm going to go do this to then like closing the deal. Yeah, it kind of happened a lot faster than I expected to, because I
Oh,
just,
wow.
like so many other things in life, I just like, a lot of it was luck, and timing and stuff. But like so many other things in life, I just got like obsessed and carried away with it. And like, because of that, I was like spending a lot of time on it. And I was like, I'm already like looking at business listings, networking with people. Like I'm already like doing all these things. I might as well like just start like actively like trying to, make offers and submit offers and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like an incremental process, but I would say like all those things happening in the background culminated in this was really bad timing on my part, but I had a conversation with my wife, and she knew like I was interested in ETA and potentially doing this someday. But I had a conversation with her. I was like, that thing about, me wanting to buy a small business, I think I'm going to seriously pursue that. And the timing of that conversation is she was 3 months pregnant with our daughter, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, I'm also going to have to personally guarantee the debt I take on to buy the business. And she's like, dude. Yeah, like, we're about to start a family here. Like, we're trying to figure out daycare for our baby that's coming in 5 months, 6 months. And so, yeah, so the timing was not ideal in that sense, but I also felt like a little bit of an urgency. This is a really long response to the question, by the way, but I felt like a little bit of urgency because I knew we're starting a family. We obviously were excited about our daughter, and we were thinking we'll probably want to have more kids someday. So life is just going to get more and more complicated. And like taking an entrepreneurial leap like this and like making a big gamble is going to be a lot harder 3 to 5 years from now than, even though it wasn't the best time when my wife was pregnant, like I felt like it was better than like today. Like I would have a harder time. Plus I felt like hopefully I'll continue to move up in my career. I'll be making more money. It's just going to be harder. You kind of get like the golden handcuffs in corporate America, right? It's just going to be harder to make that like risk reward calculation. Made the leap. And again, almost 3 years in, things are going good overall.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And what stood out to me when you were talking was over the course of your life, you kind of picked up the things that you realize you valued, where it's like, okay, I value leadership. Oh, ETA is like a thought in my head. And then with my vending machine business, like I love ownership and this feels great, even though it's a side hustle and not generating a lot of money, but like I like the business decisions and ownership. And then you thought about your vision of what you wanted with your family and your life and how being entrepreneur would help you with that. And then finally, it was kind of like, okay, maybe it's not the best time because your wife is pregnant, but like it's a better time than later.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was like all those things. It wasn't like I was in a unhappy situation professionally. So I also felt like I kind of had that going for me too, because I felt like a little bit of the pressure time wise and wanted to make something happen, but I wasn't like feeling the pressure to like to force something to happen because I was like so miserable in my job and like I needed to get out. It was like I enjoyed what I did for work. I enjoyed the people I work with most of all. So yeah, that was the hardest transition early on was like not having friends at work anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That was a bummer early on because I mean, obviously I love the people here and I have from day one, but like, when you own the company, it's like a little bit of a different relationship than when you have colleagues that are your peers at a big company. And a lot of us are fresh out of business school, late 20s, early 30s, and kind of like new to the Nashville. And so kind of like just have a lot in common and just fun to hang out with. Like letting go of that was a little sad early on.
Yeah, I can understand. There's always the trade-offs. I've been talking to a lot of people and people are interested in ETA, but it's not something they really thought about until recently. And, they do have their corporate job that pays well, but they're not happy with it. What advice would you give them if they're thinking about ETA?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's always like so case by case dependent, but I think like the biggest thing I observe in the searchers that I talk to, and I talk to searchers like all the time. People find me and just searchers in general when they're interested in exploring the path or whatever, and they get connected or they find me on LinkedIn, whatever. And I always take those calls. I like really enjoy them anyway. But I would say the thing that I observe in all the searcher conversations that I've had, people varying stages along the journey, like about to close a deal or like looking at a print business opportunity. That's how they find me a lot. And then some folks that are like still early in the process and just kind of exploring. Like I would say the biggest thing that I observe in that cohort of people, particularly like the people who are already like relatively high earners, like ambitious and really intelligent, is like their intelligence is almost like their worst enemy in a way because it's like that analysis paralysis thing. It's like the need to have everything figured out before you take any action toward the goal that you want to achieve. So I think like the first step is figuring out, talking to people, listening to their experience and like being self-reflective about your own and like, is this actually something I want to go do and explore? But then I think once you've locked in that, like, yes, I do think this is what I want to go do, I think it's really important to take action, whatever that looks like and whatever that means, because action produces information about what to do next. I think that a lot of times, like really smart people have this problem of they're really strategic and like they think things through, which is a gift. But it can be a hindrance when you're trying to like go try something new that's uncertain that you can't possibly know all the information about. You just got to do the best you can with the information you have and then like take action. So whether that means contacting, more searchers, like starting to contact like business brokers or bankers or like whatever the case may be, whatever that action looks like, I think it's really important for people to start taking action. And then like, again, like that will produce more information about what you need to go do next.
I feel like sometimes with being very smart and strategic that you spend time planning and that feels productive. Like, oh, I'm making progress because I got the spreadsheet and I'm like
Hmm.
crunching all these numbers. Where do you feel like people get stuck and that they need to like move on to like good action? What is good action? What do they get stuck on?
That's a really good question because it's like really specific. But in my experience, the moment you're starting to think that you need to move on to the next step, you need to move on to the next step because you've probably analyzed way past the point. By the time it registers for you that, like, I think I need to move on with this. By the time it registers for you, like, you're probably already way past the point where, like, you've done the homework or as much as you can. So I think trusting your instincts in a big way. I suffer a little bit from the analysis paralysis problem, but once it hits me that I've probably spent too much time ruminating on a decision or an action that needs to be taken, it like is probably already past the point that the action should have been taken. I think it just requires a reframing of like just be a little bit more action oriented and less like analysis oriented. But I don't know. It's a tough question because obviously it just depends. And I don't want to like, nor do I think it's helpful to give the advice of like, oh, just throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, I feel like it's
And
a
do whatever
balance.
you want. So there's definitely a balance, but I think like most of the people in the sort of like cohort that we're describing of like ambitious, successful, smart people, like definitely err way too far on the side of doing too much analysis up front before they take action.
It sounds like you encourage people to recalibrate, like just because they're going to be perfectionists and keep on crunching the numbers. As soon as they think like maybe I should move on, that's a sign, okay, move on versus like, oh, I should wait until I'm like 95% good with this analysis and then
Yes.
move on.
Yeah. And I think like, people who are parents have probably heard this, and even people who aren't parents. One analogy that comes to mind is like having kids and like feeling ready. If you wait until you feel like you're 100% ready to have kids, you're probably not going to have kids because I'm still waiting to meet the person who feels like they were 100% ready. My wife was pretty close. I mean, I feel like she was really prepared. But, um, but yeah, like there's like no way to be 100% ready for something like that. It's just like again, you want to be ready or like somewhat ready, and you don't want to be irresponsible, but at the same time, like don't wait until the situation and the circumstances are perfect because if you do that, then you're gonna be waiting a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's never going to be perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess another question is okay, I feel like people are scared where they're like, this is scary. I don't know if I'm making the right choice. I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. What are the three things, if you could put it in three things, that they should consider doing? Like to make sure this is the right decision for them. And then, okay, this is the right decision. Where do I even begin? Because this is overwhelming.
I think like for me, the where to begin part is like, and again, like coming from the professional background that I had and just like the people I knew, it's very fortunate that a lot of people who had gone on this journey were like just a phone call or a text away for me to be like, hey, like, I'd love to chat with you about this and ask you some questions. And people are like willing to help generally. And so, I'm fortunate that I'm like in that network. So I think that is like probably the best thing to do as far as like, what was it? Like the three things to,
I'd break it down like, okay, how do I know if this is the right thing for me?
is one
Hmm.
part. Okay, I've decided it's the right thing for me. What are 3 things I should start doing? So I guess,
Hmm.
like, how do people know this is something they should consider doing?
Yeah. I think it takes time unless you're like 100% certain and like, more and more in the, at least in the world of MBAs and MBA applications, people are going to business school specifically to pursue ETA. So I think like those people have probably thought it through and feel like they're on the right path. I think it just takes time and honestly, like, work with trusted advisors and mentors and, people like Celeste to like talk it through and then get some feedback from ideally like a somewhat objective third party, but then like also process it and sit with it too. So I think like that's probably unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way to know for certain. I mean, I'm biased because I took this was not like why I started the vending business, but I think like starting a business is like a really good way to find out if you like operating a business. And it also like could be, you start a business and you start having success with that. And then you're like, I actually just want to pursue this thing full time. So I think that like, that's always a really good way to find out. But yeah. And then as far as like 3 things people should do, just like talk to people who have done what you're trying to do and then just like ask them how they did it. Sounds like overly simplistic, but I feel like that framework in my life, when I've actually applied it, has yielded the best results by far. Find somebody who's doing the thing that I want to go do. I just like ask them how they did it. I try to like copy paste. Uh, and then, yeah, like you would get into anything, like immersing yourself in sort of the publications and like content creators. There's a lot of people selling courses and stuff. So like not always like the best advice out there on ETA, but I do think that like there's a lot of really well-known influencers in this space that if you just by like consuming content that they create, it'll get you like thinking about it more and kind of have it be more top of mind and you'll learn things. And yeah, I don't even know if I have a third other than to just consistently like check in with yourself on progress you're making and that you're on the right path. So I do like, this is not for everyone necessarily, but I keep a nightly journal and I just do like highs and lows from the day and I do it every day. My wife makes fun of me because like I don't miss a day. I've been doing that since business school, since for like over 6 years now. It's kind of cool because I have like 6 years worth of daily reflections to like look back on. I don't really look back on it that much, but the point is like I kind of have this like nightly process of, I mean, really, it's just like good things that happened or good things that I'm proud of or that went well that day, and then like things that I wish I had done better, or things I need to work on. And so I think like that process for me, that process of like nightly self reflection, just like jogs a lot of thoughts in my mind about giving me more certainty and clarity about like what I'm doing and why. So yeah, I mean, whatever people's process is there, I think that that's also an important piece too, is just like to continue to check in and with yourself, reflect and yeah, just like process
Yeah,
everything.
what I'm hearing is you don't have to do it alone, that you can find
Totally.
other people to help
Yeah.
guide you, whether you are just talking to them or doing a course, and then check in with yourself. Like, is this still making sense to me in terms of what I enjoy, aligned with my values, and learn along the way?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I got the advice from, well, actually, she's an acquisition entrepreneur, someone I look up to a lot. I interned for her when I was in business school. She bought a CPG brand and I was doing a marketing internship for her. That was also something that was like, oh, this is really cool because this woman was like, is amazing, an amazing business leader. But she gave me advice that like has stuck with me around, I think it was her that gave me this advice. So apologies if it wasn't, but like whatever you're trying to do, like the chances are it's not as original as you think it is. Somebody has done this before. Now, there's maybe some people out there who are doing something that's like totally like unique, one of one, and there's no like roadmap or there's no one out there who can like advise them on it because it's like so off the wall. But for 99.9% of us, what you're trying to accomplish is like somebody's probably done it. And so just find them and talk to them.
I agree 100%. And talking to other people and even people interviewing here is just connecting with people that are already where you want to be or on the same journey so that you feel inspired? That doesn't feel like, oh, this crazy thing. It's like, no, it becomes more normalized and feels more tangible and realistic.
Yeah, and you also realize that it's like the grass is not always greener too. I've had the opportunity to meet some people who have had like extraordinary financial success from like businesses that they've built and sold. The stories are really cool, they're really impressive, and it's like, man, that's amazing, like huge payday and like all the accolades and like accomplish this really hard thing. And but like there's been several examples where I've kind of like got into deeper discussion with those people, and you realize like there was like a lot of pain too, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like, not to say that having a lot of money doesn't help a lot of things, but it definitely does. But I think there's also like this other side of the coin too. Like, I've heard and talked to several people who, like, after they sell their business, they make a lot of money. Great, awesome, and that's super exciting. But then like running that business is like a big part of their identity, and like now they don't have that. There's almost like this depression that goes along with exiting your business because, well, what do I do? Like, what do I do now? And it's not a problem of like money. It's a problem of purpose and meaning and having a goal that you're striving toward. One example of somebody I met who sold his company for like, it's like almost like $100 million. It's like a crazy story. But he was like telling me the story, and he was like, my mental health, like in the years leading up to the sale, was like the worst it's ever been. He was like traveling 250 days a year. He
Oh,
had
wow.
2 young kids. And, like, obviously that put a strain on his family life and, like, his marriage. I was like, "Oh, all you see is, like, on paper, like, this amazing financial success." I mean, again, like, obviously, it's cool, but it's also, like, there was a huge cost associated with that, and I think you just realize, like anything in life, right? It's like, the grass is not always greener. Like, you're not the only one. You're not the first person has this idea or, like, is trying to accomplish this thing that you want to accomplish. And also, like you were saying, it inspires you to be around people who have done the thing, but also it helps keep you down to earth and grounded too, to realize that they've got problems too. Like,
Yeah, you see the full picture versus just like the positive, shiny thing.
yeah, the like social media post is like, you think this person has this like perfect life because of what you see, like the headline, right? But then you get to know them and you realize like, their life isn't perfect either.
Yeah, I feel like that's important because regardless of what you do, there's always struggles, there's always hardship. What has kept you focused? What's your why behind all of this that's helped you to get through the hard times?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm still always like trying to connect with like a very succinct answer to this question, but I kind of always keep coming back to like being a source of inspiration to people. And again, like that comes with like some ego stuff as well. Like, I want to be great and I want to inspire other people to be great. And I feel like in order to do that, like I have to do great things. Again, as you can see, the problem is like conflating my worth as a person with the things I achieve. It's like kind of delineating those two things is sometimes a struggle, but it's like I want to inspire the next generation of acquisition entrepreneurs or the people who are like 3 to 5 years behind me and be a source of inspiration for them and like the people on my team too. I want them to see what we can accomplish as a company and be like, this is really cool. Like, I can accomplish great things if I put my mind to it and approach it the right way. And so I think for me, a big reason for that is like, I want to accomplish great things to like prove to the world that I can do it. And then I can be that source of inspiration to people. So that's really like what motivates me. And I think also, like I alluded to at the very beginning, one thing that's just been like, it's maybe not even as deep as some of the more like existential questions. But one of the things I loved growing up was playing sports. And again, was not a great athlete, but I did like love to compete. I love that about being an entrepreneur. Running a business and like competing in the marketplace is like the ultimate competition. And it's just like really fun. And so that's the other thing that like gets me up is I want to win.
Yeah, it seems like the things that are naturally inclined for you line up with being an entrepreneur, of wanting to do great things, being competitive, helping people grow. Even though you didn't know what you wanted to do when you were in college, it sounds like you found the right place to be at.
I've shared this with people that over the course of the past like 12 to 24 months, when it started to feel more and more like things were clicking, is like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is like a really awesome feeling.
I got goosebumps when you said that.
Like, it's cool, right? And so I think the whole like competition thing, like it's easy to get distracted by I'm not as far along as I would like to be right now, or like the business isn't where it should be right now. Like I need to be doing more. All those things I think are like helpful. Want to be constantly improving. But at the same time, from a professional standpoint, I am checking the box emphatically of purpose and meaning and fulfillment at work. Whether or not the financial success comes at all, really, sort of like secondary, because I'm able to pay the bills. I have a family that's healthy, happy. Obviously, like our lives are not perfect. Life is stressful, but like in general, everyone's doing well. And again, like professionally, like life is full of meaning and fulfillment. And so it's like, okay, well then like by any like objective standard, I am winning. So I would like the, all the accolades and the results to match up with that. But at the end of the day, like it really actually doesn't matter, because that's the thing that hopefully we should all be going for at the end of the day.
I love that. As I've gotten older, the thought that's popped up in my head is like, you are the person that measures your life. And so what I'm hearing is that you're not measuring your life by some end goal or outcome. You're measuring the day by day. Are you living aligned with your values of fulfillment, purpose, spending time with your family and being there with them?
You're painting a very positive picture, Celeste, which I appreciate. Yeah, at my best. That's what I'm doing. But yeah.
It's like enjoying the journey.
Yes. No, I think so much. I could talk about this all day, but yeah, I do think so much like I'm constantly having to recenter myself on like not obsessing about outcomes and results and when they happen. And it's just like, if I'm doing what I love to do, I'm motivated by it and generally making progress, the results are going to take care of themselves. And they may not happen like on the timeline that I want them to, but what do I know?
No, it's trusting that you're doing the right things. Like maybe you don't see that outcome immediately or when you want it, but you're doing the right things. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Well, just closing out here, this podcast is supposed to inspire people to pursue their dreams. What parting advice do you want to give those people who feel afraid?
Okay. One of my favorite quotes is, there's different variations of this quote, but the way I have always heard it is leap and the net will appear. That's obvious, self-explanatory. I run into this so much, like even in just when I'm making a decision in the business, or I'm going to spend a lot of money to invest in something that I've crunched the numbers. Like I think it should work, but it's like, I'm not 100% certain. Sometimes you just got to like lean in and take the leap. And like generally when you do that, if you're doing it responsibly and well, like things work out.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I like that you said responsibility well. You're not telling people just like jump at any moment.
Jumping all the time. And I have to remind, I think it's always tricky for me too. It's like, where's the line, right? Particularly when it comes to like, if we're going to invest in like a new piece of equipment or what, like hire somebody, whatever the case may be. You want to have faith in your decisions and trust the process, but also you got to be responsible and smart about it too. So it's a balance. I don't know where the line is always.
Yeah, I think I imagine you built that over time through like intuition of like trial
Definitely.
and error.
That's part of it too.
Well, thank you, Connor, so much for being here today. And I know you said a big part of your why is inspiring people. I'm for sure that you did that today with your story and being vulnerable. So I just appreciate you being open and honest with your journey. And I have no doubt that people will hear this and think, yeah, I've been thinking about ETA. It's just been a thought, but now I'm going to talk to somebody.
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And if people want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you're obviously more than welcome to share my contact info with them too.
Yeah, we'll do. Yes. Are you gonna be posting things on LinkedIn about your journey, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be better about being more active on LinkedIn. I did well for a stretch last year, and feel free to just like message me on there too if you want to connect or shoot me an email or whatever.
Yeah, well, I hope you do post things, but no pressure. I know you got your whole business, you got your family, but when you do post, I always enjoy to see it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.